What happens when one of the most beloved actors in Hollywood sits down for what should be a simple interview, only to find himself face to face with a host who refuses to show him even basic respect? What happens when the bright studio lights and cheerful music hide something darker brewing beneath the surface? What happens when a man who has spent 40 years perfecting his craft is treated like he has nothing of value to offer? In just 36 seconds, Kelly Clarkson made a comment so dismissive, so utterly condescending, that Samuel L. Jackson did something no guest had ever done on her show before. He stood up, he removed his microphone, and he walked off the stage while the cameras were still rolling. This is the interview that the network tried to bury. This is the conversation that had production assistants scrambling and executives making panicked phone calls. This is the moment that proved even the most composed professionals have a breaking point. Let me take you through exactly what happened, word for word, moment by moment. Because what you are about to hear is not just a celebrity meltdown. This is a masterclass in dignity. This is a man refusing to be diminished. And this is a host who had no idea what she had just unleashed. The audience was buzzing with excitement that morning. Samuel L. Jackson was scheduled as the main guest, and everyone in those studio seats knew they were in for something special. This was not just any actor walking onto that stage. This was a man who had appeared in some of the highest-grossing films of all time. A man whose voice alone was instantly recognizable to billions of people around the world. A man who had worked with every major director you could name and had earned the respect of everyone in the industry. When the show came back from commercial break, the band played him on with enthusiasm. The audience rose to their feet, applauding and cheering as Samuel walked out with that signature cool confidence he is known for. He was dressed impeccably, a dark suit with a perfectly chosen hat that only he could pull off with such effortless style. Kelly stood from her chair, clapping along with the audience, a big smile on her face. Everything seemed perfectly normal. Everything seemed like it was going to be a great segment. Samuel waved to the crowd, clearly appreciating the warm welcome. He made his way over to Kelly, and they shared what appeared to be a friendly hug. He settled into the guest chair, crossing one leg over the other, looking completely at ease. "Oh my goodness," Kelly said, still smiling as she sat back down. "The legend himself. Samuel L. Jackson, everybody." The audience erupted again, and Samuel nodded graciously, raising a hand to acknowledge them. Thank you," he said. "That is a very kind welcome. I appreciate that." Kelly leaned forward in her chair, her hands clasped together. "So we are so excited to have you here. I have to be honest, I have been looking forward to this all week." "Well, I have been looking forward to it too," Samuel replied. "I have heard good things about your show. The energy in here is wonderful." "It is, right?" Kelly said, gesturing to the audience. "These people, they bring it every single day. They really do." There was a brief moment of comfortable small talk, the kind that usually sets the stage for a pleasant interview. Samuel complimented the set design. Kelly mentioned how nice his hat was. The audience laughed at a small joke he made about fighting traffic to get to the studio. Everything was going smoothly, too smoothly, perhaps, because nobody in that room had any idea that the mood was about to shift dramatically. "So," Kelly said, settling into her interview posture, "you have a new movie coming out. Tell us about it." Samuel's eyes lit up the way they always do when he talks about his work. You could see genuine passion there, the excitement of an artist who still loves what he does after all these years. "Yes, I do," he said. "It is called The Last Stand. It is a thriller, very intense, very character-driven. I play a retired detective who gets pulled back into one final case. The script was incredible, and the director gave me so much room to really explore this character." Kelly nodded, but there was something in her expression that seemed slightly distant, like she was only half listening. Sounds interesting," Samuel continued, not noticing her subtle disengagement. "What I loved about this project was the depth of the character. He is a man dealing with regret, dealing with mistakes he made in his past. And the way the story unfolds, you really get to see all these layers come out. It was one of the most challenging roles I have had in years." Right, Kelly said, glancing down at her notes. "So it is like an action movie?" Samuel paused for just a moment, a flicker of something crossing his face. "It has action elements, yes, but it is really more of a character study. The action serves the story rather than the other way around." "Got it," Kelly said, nodding in a way that suggested she did not entirely get it. You know what I think is so funny about action movies? Samuel tilted his head slightly. What is that? Kelly laughed, looking out at the audience as if she was about to share an inside joke. I just feel like they are all kind of the same, you know? Like explosion, car chase, somebody says a cool line, explosion again. Am I right, everybody? A few people in the audience laughed nervously, but most seemed uncertain how to respond. They could sense something was off. Samuel's expression remained calm, but if you look closely, you could see his jaw tighten just slightly. Well, I would argue that there is a lot of variety in the genre. Just like there is variety in any genre of film, it depends on the storytelling. Oh, totally, Kelly said, waving her hand, dismissively. I am just saying, from an audience perspective, sometimes it all blends together. But I am sure yours is different. There was something in the way she said. I am sure yours is different that carried a subtle undercurrent of condescension. It was the kind of comment that could be played off as innocent if challenged, but the implication was clear. Samuel took a breath and continued, clearly choosing to give her the benefit of the doubt. This film is different because it focuses on the emotional journey. The character I play is haunted by a case from 20 years ago. A young woman went missing and he was never able to find her. That failure has defined his entire life. Kelly picked up her coffee mug and took a sip, her eyes wandering briefly to someone off camera. When she set the mug down, she seemed to suddenly remember she was in the middle of an interview. Sorry, what was that about a missing woman? The audience shifted uncomfortably. Even the most casual viewer could tell that Kelly had not been paying attention to what her guest was saying. Samuel's voice remained steady, but there was a new edge to it. I was explaining the plot of the film, the emotional core of the story. Right, the emotional core, Kelly repeated, nodding exaggeratedly. You know, I have to ask you something that I've always wondered about. Please, Samuel said, gesturing for her to continue. Kelly leaned back in her chair with a smile that seemed designed to appear friendly, but came across as something else entirely. Do you ever get tired of playing the same kind of character? Like the tough guy with the attitude? Because I feel like I have seen that a lot from you. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. The audience went quiet. Even the camera operators seemed to hold their breath. Samuel looked at Kelly for a long moment before responding. When he spoke, his voice was measured and controlled. I am not sure what you mean by the same kind of character. I have played over 150 different roles in my career. I have been in romantic comedies, dramas, animated films, historical pieces. I have played teachers, fathers, villains, heroes, and everything in between. Kelly laughed, but it was not a warm laugh. It was the kind of laugh people use when they think they know better. Okay, but come on. When people think of Samuel L. Jackson, they think of the guy who yells and looks intimidating. That is kind of your brand, right? My brand, Samuel repeated, his voice flat. You know what I mean, Kelly said, still smiling as if she had not just reduced decades of artistic work to a single stereotype. Like, you are the cool, angry guy. That is what you do. Samuel uncrossed his legs and leaned forward slightly. With all due respect, I think that is a very limited view of my body of work. I have received critical acclaim for performances that have nothing to do with being, as you put it, the cool, angry guy. I have worked with directors who have pushed me to explore sides of myself I did not know existed. I have taken risks that a lot of actors in my position would never take. Kelly held up her hands in mock surrender. Okay, I did not mean to offend you. I am just saying what the general perception is. That is all. The general perception, Samuel said, is shaped by the clips people see online. It is shaped by memes and social media. It does not represent the full scope of what I have done as an artist. There was genuine passion in his voice, now, the passion of a man who has dedicated his entire life to his craft and does not appreciate having it minimized. I get that, Kelly said, though her tone suggested she did not really get it at all. But you have to admit, you do have a certain, I do not know, presence that lends itself to those kinds of roles. Every actor has a presence, Samuel replied. That does not mean we are limited by it, Denzel. Washington has a presence. Meryl Streep has a presence. Nobody reduces their careers to a single type of character, Kelly shrugged. I mean, Meryl Streep is kind of in a different category, though, is she not? The audience gasped audibly. Someone in the back of the room could be heard saying, "Oh no," under their breath. Samuel's eyes narrowed. What exactly do you mean by that? Nothing bad, Kelly said quickly, seeming to realize she had stepped into dangerous territory but not quite understanding how deep the water had gotten. I just mean she is known for serious, dramatic work, transformative performances, that kind of thing. And I am not, Samuel said. It was not a question. Kelly hesitated, clearly searching for a way to backtrack. That is not what I said. I am just saying you have different strengths. You are really good at what you do. The thing you do. The thing I do, Samuel repeated, his voice dropping to a dangerous calm that anyone who has seen his films would immediately recognize. Tell me, Kelly, what exactly is the thing I do? Kelly laughed nervously, looking out at the audience for support that was not coming. The crowd sat in stunned silence, watching this train wreck unfold in real time. You know, Kelly said, waving her hand vaguely, the intense stare, the cool delivery, the one-liners, you do that really well. I see, Samuel said. So 4 decades of work, hundreds of films, collaborations with some of the greatest directors and writers in cinema history, and what I do is intense stares and one-liners. I am just being honest about how the public sees you, Kelly said, her smile now looking forced and uncomfortable. I think it is important to be real with our guests, you know? That is what makes this show different. Being real, Samuel said, is not the same thing as being reductive, or dismissive, or disrespectful. Kelly's smile faltered. I am not being disrespectful. I am being conversational. That is the vibe of this show. We keep it casual and fun. There is nothing fun about having your life's work summarized as a gimmick, Samuel replied. There is nothing casual about being told you are somehow in a lesser category than your peers. The tension in the studio was now so thick it was almost visible. Audience members were looking at each other with wide eyes. Production assistants in the wings were whispering frantically into their headsets. Kelly took a deep breath and tried to reset the conversation. Okay, I feel like we got off on the wrong foot here. Let us start over. Tell me about working with the director on this new film. But Samuel was not ready to let the previous comments go. And honestly, why should he be? Before we move on, he said, I would like to address something. You mentioned that Meryl Streep is in a different category, that she is known for serious, dramatic work. I want to be very clear about something. I have been nominated for an Academy Award. I have won a BAFTA. I have been recognized by every major film institution in the world. I have performed Shakespeare on stage. I have done independent films that played at Cannes. I have worked with Quentin Tarantino, Spike Lee, Steven Spielberg, and dozens of other legendary filmmakers. Kelly opened her mouth to respond, but Samuel continued. I have played a range of characters that spans every emotion and experience you can imagine. I have portrayed drug addicts and presidents, criminals and saints, comedic sidekicks and tragic heroes. I have made people laugh, made them cry, made them think about their lives differently. That is what I do, not intense stares and one-liners. The audience broke into spontaneous applause. Finally, something they could respond to. They were clearly on Samuel's side, and the support was unmistakable. Kelly shifted in her seat, her composure visibly shaken. I did not mean to imply that you are not talented. Obviously, you are talented. You would not be here if you were not talented. I would not be here if I were not talented, Samuel repeated. That is an interesting way to phrase that. As if my presence on your show is some sort of validation of my career. As if I should be grateful for the opportunity to be questioned about whether I belong in the same category as other actors. That is not what I meant, Kelly said, her voice rising slightly. You are twisting my words. I am not twisting anything, Samuel said calmly. I am responding to what you said. You asked if I get tired of playing the same kind of character. You compared me unfavorably to other actors. You reduced my entire filmography to a stereotype. Those are your words, not mine. Kelly's expression hardened. Something had shifted in her demeanor. The friendly talk show host facade was cracking, and underneath it was something far less pleasant. You know what, Samuel? I think you are being a little sensitive here. This is supposed to be a fun conversation, and you are turning it into something heavy. Sensitive, Samuel said, letting the word hang in the air. You think I am being sensitive? Yes, frankly, Kelly said, crossing her arms. I paid you a compliment. I said you are good at what you do. Most people would just say thank you and move on. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Several people shook their heads in disbelief at what they were witnessing. Samuel leaned back in his chair, studying Kelly with an expression that was impossible to read. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet but carried clearly through the studio. Let me explain something to you, Kelly. I have been in this industry since before you were born. I have faced discrimination, rejection, and disrespect in ways you cannot imagine. I have had to fight for every single opportunity I have ever received. And through all of that, I have never let anyone make me feel like I was less than. I am not about to start now. Kelly rolled her eyes. Actually rolled her eyes. On camera, in front of her entire audience. Oh, here we go, she said. The veteran actor's speech. I have heard this before from other guests. You all think because you have been around for a while, everyone should just bow down. The gasp from the audience was audible throughout the entire studio. Someone in the front row actually put their hand over their mouth in shock. Samuel's expression did not change, but something in his eyes went cold. Excuse me? I'm just saying, Kelly continued, apparently unable to recognize the cliff she was walking toward. You come on my show, and you lecture me about respect? I am the host. I get to steer the conversation. That is how this works. How this works, Samuel said, is that you invite a guest onto your show to promote their work and share their experiences. What you do not do is belittle them, dismiss their accomplishments, and then act offended when they defend themselves. Kelly laughed, but it was a bitter sound with no warmth in it. I did not belittle you. I asked you questions. That is my job. Your job, Samuel replied, is to conduct an interview, not an interrogation. Your job is to make your guests feel welcome, not attacked. Your job is to facilitate a conversation, not to demonstrate how little you actually know about the person sitting across from you. Oh, so now I do not know anything about you? Kelly shot back. I did my research. I know plenty about you. If you did your research, Samuel said, you would know better than to ask me if I get tired of playing the same character. If you did your research, you would know the breadth and depth of my career. If you did your research, you would know that I am not someone who takes kindly to being patronized. Kelly threw her hands up in the air. Fine. You know what? I apologize. I am sorry if my questions were not up to your standards. I am sorry if this little daytime talk show is not sophisticated. Enough for the great Samuel L. Jackson. The sarcasm dripping from her words was unmistakable. She was not apologizing. She was mocking him. Samuel nodded slowly, as if something had just been confirmed for him. I see. So this is who you really are when the charm does not work. What is that supposed to mean? Kelly demanded. It means, Samuel said, that when you cannot control the conversation, you get nasty. When a guest does not play along with your little games, you show your true colors. This nice girl from Texas routine, it is just that, a routine. Kelly's face flushed red. How dare you? You do not know me. You do not know anything about me. I know what I have seen in the last 10 minutes, Samuel replied. And what I have seen is a host who is more interested in hearing herself talk than actually listening to her guests. A host who thinks she can say whatever she wants because she has a microphone and a studio audience. A host who does not understand the difference between being entertaining and being disrespectful. The audience sat in absolute stunned silence. Nobody knew where to look. Some people were filming on their phones, knowing they were witnessing something that would be talked about for years to come. Kelly leaned forward aggressively. You want to talk about disrespect? You have been condescending to me since the moment I asked about your movie. I tried to have a light conversation, and you turned it into some kind of crusade about your legacy. A light conversation, Samuel said, does not include comparing me unfavorably to other actors. A light conversation does not include suggesting that my career is one-dimensional. A light conversation does not include rolling your eyes when someone speaks about their experiences. I'm tired of celebrities who come on here and expect to be treated like royalty, Kelly said, her voice rising to a near shout. You think you are better than everyone else because you have been in some movies? Get over yourself. The studio went completely silent. Even the production crew had stopped moving. Everyone understood that a line had just been crossed from which there was no return. Samuel looked at Kelly for a long moment. Then, slowly and deliberately, he reached up and removed the microphone that was clipped to his lapel. What are you doing? Kelly asked, her voice suddenly uncertain. I am leaving, Samuel said simply. You cannot just leave. We are in the middle of a show. Samuel stood up from his chair, still holding the microphone in his hand. Watch me. This is so unprofessional, Kelly sputtered. You are being completely unprofessional right now. Samuel set the microphone down on the arm of the chair with a soft click. Then he straightened his jacket and adjusted his hat. When he spoke again, his voice was calm and measured, completely at peace with the decision he had made. Let me tell you about professionalism, Kelly. Professionalism is, quote, showing respect to the people you work with. Professionalism is doing your homework before an interview. Professionalism is not insulting your guests to their faces and then acting surprised when they do not appreciate it. What you have done today is the opposite of professionalism, and I refuse to be part of it any longer. Kelly stood up from her own chair, looking genuinely panicked now. Samuel, wait. Let us talk about this. We can take a commercial break and reset. There is nothing to reset, Samuel said. You have shown me who you are, and who you are is someone I have no interest in spending another minute with. He turned to the audience and raised his hand in a wave. I apologize to all of you for how this has gone. You came here expecting to see a good interview, and instead you witnessed something else. That is not your fault, and I hope you understand why I cannot continue. Several audience members started clapping. Then more joined in. Within seconds, the entire studio was applauding Samuel L. Jackson, not for a performance in a movie, but for standing up for himself. Kelly looked around the studio in disbelief as her own audience showed more support for her departing guests than for her. Are you serious right now? She said to the crowd. He is the one walking out, and you are clapping for him? But the audience did not stop. If anything, the applause grew louder. Some people stood up from their seats, giving Samuel a standing ovation as he walked toward the edge of the stage. This is unbelievable, Kelly muttered, more to herself than anyone else. This is absolutely unbelievable. Samuel paused at the edge of the stage and turned back one final time. His eyes met Kelly's across the set, and for a moment, nobody moved. A piece of advice, Samuel said, his voice carrying easily through the now quiet studio. The next time you have a guest on your show, try actually listening to them. Try treating them like a human being instead of a prop for your entertainment. You might be surprised at what you learn. With that, he stepped off the stage and walked toward the exit. A production assistant scrambled to open the door for him, and he nodded as he passed through. The door closed behind him with a soft but final sound. Kelly stood alone on her stage, surrounded by cameras and lights, and an audience looking at her with disappointment to outright hostility. Okay, she said, her voice shaky as she tried to regain control. Well, that happened. Let us take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back with our next segment. But even as she spoke, audience members were already getting up from their seats. Some headed for the exits, others sat with arms crossed, clearly not in the mood for whatever came next. The cameras cut away, but the damage was done. In the space of a single interview, Kelly had revealed something about herself that no amount of cheerful music and friendly banter could hide. Meanwhile, backstage, Samuel L. Jackson walked out of the building with his head held high. He had come to promote a movie and left defending his honor. He had come expecting a pleasant conversation and left exposing a talk show host who did not deserve the platform she had been given. He did not look back. There was no need to. He had said everything that needed to be said. The footage of this interview spread across the internet within hours. People who had never watched a single episode of the talk show were suddenly watching and rewatching those 36 seconds. That moment when Kelly suggested Meryl Streep was in a different category, the moment when everything changed. Samuel had not been performing for the cameras in that studio. He had been standing up for himself, for his work, for every actor who has ever been dismissed by someone who did not bother to do their research. And that, more than any movie role he has ever played, is why people respect him. Because when it matters most, he knows exactly who he is and refuses to let anyone tell him otherwise. Samuel L. Jackson walked into that studio as a legend. He walked out as something even more. He walked out as a man who proved that no stage, no spotlight, no host, no matter how popular, has the power to diminish someone who truly knows their worth. That is the real story. Not a celebrity tantrum, not a diva demanding special treatment, but a human being refusing to accept disrespect, no matter what it cost him. And that is why, when people look back on this moment, they will not remember it as the time Samuel L. Jackson walked off a talk show. They will remember it as the time Kelly Clarkson learned the hard way that some people cannot be pushed around. Some people will not smile and nod when they are being insulted. Some people have spent their entire lives earning respect, and they will not let anyone take it away from them. Not on a talk show stage, not on camera, not ever. And that is the truth of what happened when one man decided he had heard enough.